This is our paranormal podcast because this is our paranormal community, and we want to support you here on RU Media Network. We are proud to be sponsored by the Haunted Hinsdale House in Hinsdale, New York. Here are your hosts, Bryan Mersal and Sean Gilmore.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Our Paranormal podcast. It's Bryan, and today I'm joined with
Lindsay.
How are you, Lindsay?
I'm good.
Very excited about this.
Absolutely.
Let me just do a quick house cleaning. Sorry for the late launch. Of course, there's technical issues on both of our parts, and Gloria could not make it, but she is very supportive, and that's all going well. And Sean will be here on the next show. Like we said about 2 shows ago, that he would be taking just a little bit of time off. And he is coming back in 2 weeks. So for the next show, we've got a wonderful guest, and Sean will be back, and it is very exciting. So, Lindsay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm 32. I am a practiced and well-versed empath. I discovered that when I was early teenage years, but I had experiences in childhood that I weren't aware of what they were at the time. I have 2 children, one of which has shown, get out of here, right there. One of which has also shown empathic abilities, and does come in contact with quite a few of the spirits that come through my house. So, yeah, I've been dealing with the paranormal for most of my life. So,
Okay. There's hi Tony and hi Peggy. There's so many wonderful people that almost get overshadowed because they're not too like out there in the paranormal world, and you're absolutely one of them. Wonderful empathic abilities, but just because you're not too into the mainstream, you don't get to share your story and share your abilities and give that advice that people are going to be needing. And this is why it is such like a beautiful platform for you, Lindsay. So just start us way back. What was like your first paranormal experience? Even just back up. So like just for the people listening, what kind of value do you think they're going to get from all of your experiences and all of your knowledge tonight?
well, I experience things differently than a lot of people do. I think I've only met one other person in my life that experiences the paranormal the same way I do, in a similar fashion. Maybe understanding, what they experience. People that do have latent abilities or just sensitive to supernatural activity, maybe they'll understand it, seeing it from a perspective that maybe they haven't seen it before, a feeling that they've had that has been unexplained before. And yeah, I'm hoping, I'm a lot of fun, so.
Okay, so and what I think is really amazing is when they hear your stories, when they hear your advice. Some people that are already sensitive are going to get a different perspective of another empath's abilities, perspectives, as well as people that don't quite have their third eye open yet. This might give them more tools in their tool set to start honing that ability. So I'm really excited about tonight. That headset is so crisp, by the way.
Right.
Drew did a really good job.
Right. I'm very proud of it.
The audio is on point. Okay, so talk to us about your childhood. Talk to us about like your first paranormal experiences, and
Okay.
how that kind of shaped your paranormal adventure.
Okay. So I've always been interested in like ghosties and, things of that nature. And, I was a fantasy gal as a small child and as a teenager, werewolves, vampires, the lore. I like cultures with their lore and whatnot. But my first experience was definitely, I think maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
And I remember I was in bed and I felt the need to wake up, and I sat up and I saw a little boy sitting on the end of my bed, and he was playing with a fire truck. And I remember as a kid, like, he was kind of see-through, and I was like, excuse me, like, what are you doing? And he was just pushing a fire truck on my bed, and a big metal fire truck, like those real old from like 50s, when they made them all out of metal, and if you kicked them you break a toe, those ones.
Yeah.
It looked like one of those it was a big metal fire truck. And he was very young. He was probably anywhere from like 4 to 6 maybe.
Okay.
And I remember he looked at me for a second, and then he realized I was there and he disappeared. And I'm like, so as a kid, I was like, oh, maybe I dreamed it. Like, that wasn't real.
Yeah.
And then I think I saw him once or twice more, just little quick, here and there. It's like he was on the floor with he always had the fire truck. And then come to find out, there was a little boy that had suffocated nearby, and he had been locked in the crawl space and had suffocated. And I found this out like almost into adulthood.
Okay.
But I'm fairly certain that was that little boy, and that was my first experience. And as a child, had convinced myself that I had dreamed it, or that he hadn't really been there. But he was my first experience. And then it was pretty quiet for a long time until I hit closer to my teenage years. And the first time I realized, like, I interacted with people very easily through life. I was very well liked. I was very easygoing with people. People genuinely like wanted to tell me things, and people that were very damaged, I want to say, damaged people, were very attracted to me. And I was unaware that being an empath, you attract damaged people because you make them feel good. And those are living people. And that I've had quite a few, quote unquote, damaged people that have experienced excessive trauma, people that are mentally unstable, come through my life in and out. And they are borderline obsessive with me, very possessive of me. And as soon as I get rid of one moves on, another one moves in. So like that's part of being an empath. You attract people, and a lot of them are damaged or, in need of healing, because the way that you make them feel when you're around them, that you make them feel good. But those feelings also transfer over to you. Those negative feelings, those crazy feelings, those depressed feelings can, as an empath, if you cannot close that off, will feed into you, and then you will, misery loves company. So,
Yeah, and just like being an empath and a psych nurse, you know
oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
no, I'm good on all that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Retail's enough for me. But
Oh,
yeah, no, it's something that it's learned. And a lot of it is self-learned. You learn trial by fire. It is good to have someone. I have had some people in my life that have helped me hone it and protect myself, because they fly out of the woodwork around me. I pick them up no matter where I go. But I've also met some amazing people because of that ability. You know what I mean? So, but it also attracts supernatural spirits. Spirits are very attracted to empaths. The energy that we give off. I have no less than 9 spirits in my house at a time.
Wow.
They just hang out and then they go, or they come back. I've had multiple spirits in my house. I have multiple in here now. You may or may not. The lights may go on and off if they're feeling, um, feisty this evening. They like to harass me when I'm in the dining room. And that's where I'm at. So
Of course.
maybe if we're lucky, they'll push some stuff around, or they'll flicker the lights on and off. But one of my biggest supernatural experiences was during when I was a teenager. I had a friend, and his grandparents had passed away and left him their house, and his uncle's house was also on the property, and he was like, "Hey, come over, I want to show you the house and stuff." I'm like, "Cool, okay." So I go over there, and this was back when I was, not quite as careful and very untrained and prone to dangerous acts. He took me through his grandparents' house, and there was really nothing, it was an empty house. It wasn't anything. But then he took me to his uncle's house, and the energy in the house was very heavy when I walked in. It was very abandoned. It was very neglected. Like everything was where it was when he died, but the house was very moldy, very rotten. There were floorboards missing. And I remember I walked in and I was looking around, and there was a chair in the corner, and I was like, "Your uncle died in this house, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, how did you know that?" I'm like, "He died in that chair." And I thought I killed him for a second, because he was like, "How did you know that?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "I don't know." I'm like, I just, honestly, in my head, I was just kind of trying to screw with him. Like I was trying to pick on it, make him uncomfortable, make him nervous. But I had been 100% correct.
Yeah.
And it is just what had popped into my head. I knew his uncle had passed away. And I believe he mentioned that he had passed away in the house at some point. So that was already aware of, but I did not know where he had passed away. And there was a couch. There was a bedroom off to the side.
Mhm.
He could have died anywhere in the house. And I just looked at this chair in the corner. I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "He died in that chair." And he was like,
That was the feeling.
"Yeah." And it was just, it just came into my head, and I thought it was just me being, and it ended up being true. And, but I remember the house just being very heavy, it made me feel strange. And this was before I was really aware of the abilities that I had. I wasn't really sure what was going on. But his uncle had it was like a cellar under the house, but it was his like workshop, and everything was still in its place. And he took me down there to, to show me down there. And, there was all sorts of really old tools and cool stuff down there. But it was very warm down there, and it was in the ground. And I found that very strange. And I was like, I'm like, "Is the heat still running in this house? Like what?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Why is it so warm down here?" And he's like, "It's not warm down here. It's actually really cold." But I was like almost borderline sweating, and I was very confused. I'm like, "Why is it so hot?" And there was just a piece of mirror like hanging off to the side, like on wires, like was holding this piece of mirror up. And I kept looking at it. It was bothering me. Like it made me uncomfortable. And I remember I walked past it, and then I walked back, and I walked past it. And then because I was a teenager and stupid, I went over to it, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Dave," I'm like, "Look at this." I'm like, "There's something in the mirror." And I was just trying to scare him. And he walked over, and I like reached up and I touched it, and it like burnt my fingers. Like I felt like I had touched like a stove. And I'm like, and I'm like, "Oh God." And he's like, stop picking on me." I'm like, "No." And like the ends of my fingers were really red, and I was so confused. But I told him, I said, "You need to get rid of that mirror. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what that is. I'm like, but you need to get rid of that mirror. And it was very like the mirror was very foggy. Like it had like a coating on it, like a what is that? Like a frosting. It looked like it had frost over it. So you couldn't actually clearly see into it, but it made me very uncomfortable. And I remember that. And I remember that was like the first time I realized that like I was actually feeling things. It wasn't just, I wasn't getting lucky. I wasn't, just lucky guesses and whatnot. And I looked into, really, trying to hone that skill to see if I could grasp it better. And I did meet quite a few people, after the fact that some gave good advice, some crackpots. There's a lot of fakes in the paranormal investigative world when it comes to psychics and empaths. You're bound to run into a couple crackpots or two. But
And
yeah, it's been a fun journey.
yeah, and Melvin even said this like right after you were talking about the uncle that passed away in the chair, saying, "Wow, it's a good way of trolling and then figuring out that you have these
Right?
strong, and then I mean this was before the mirror thing. I mean that was just almost like you trolled yourself on that one. You know what I mean?
I did, and I don't think it was his uncle that I was feeling in the house. I think there was something not good in that house that had been. I don't know if his uncle had nefarious things going on, or something had attached itself to the house at some point. But I realize now after experience, it's a good possibility that I may have come in contact with something demonic in that house and just not realize that was what I was interacting with. I've come in contact with quite a few demonic entities over the years. Some left bigger impacts than others. But each interaction is different. No demonic interaction is the same. They're not going to come at you the same way. There'll be similarities, but not all of you're not. They're very good at hiding it sometimes, and coming across as like a natural spirit or a dead loved one. But yeah.
Okay, that's a lot, and actually, there's like a ton of comments here. Let's see, and this was just Linda saying, "Yeah, I mean, great mentors, but the trial by fire, is crazy. I mean, whether it's spirits or humans, and they seek your attention everywhere."
No empath is the same. One empath is not the same as another. Everybody experiences things differently. There can be a lot of similarities. Different people can experience the same things, but they're similar, but not the same. When I first started sensing spirits around me, I would feel like a tingling pressure in my chest. Or if they would, I feel tingling. Some people feel like a pressure. Like if they would touch my face will tingle where they're touching, and I can feel like a tingling finger. Like it's a very weird feeling for me. I feel tingles when I'm interacting. But I've also been slapped. Have you ever been slapped by a dead person? That's an interesting feeling.
I have not, but is this pertaining to Peggy's question here? Okay, good. There's just so many questions. Okay, I'm gonna get to every one of them. Don't worry. Peggy says, you mentioned that you've met only one other person who uses their abilities in the same way you do, because every psychic and empath has different abilities and they use them in different ways. And Peggy wants to know if you clarify on this. This was at the beginning of the podcast. You were kind of alluding to you've only met one other person that kind of uses their abilities in the same way you do. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Okay, so let's see if I can explain. I'm not a good speaker. I get sidetracked and I can't find the exact words I'm trying to use. The only other person I've met that see, now when I deal with spirits, like if I'm in this room and I'm interacting with spirits, most people will tell you that the room should be colder. When there are spirits in the room, the air gets warmer around me. The energy from the spirits makes the temperature warmer for me, and I've only met one other person that experiences that way, and that was a friend. She's a psychic medium, and she's a legitimate one. She's fantastic. But I noticed it like the first time I'd ever had a reading with her, that the room was very warm. And she said something to me. She's like, gosh, it's really hot in here. She's like, there's a lot of spirits in here. And I'm like, does the room get warm for you too? And she's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now, when I've had interactions with demonic entities, the room gets very cold. Whereas I know a lot of people, when they experience demonic activity or demonic entities, it's very warm for them. I don't know if I'm just opposite because I have to be difficult. But that is how I've always experienced it. And like I said, I've only met one other person that experiences it that way. Now, I do know a couple of empaths that do experience like tingles and, you know what I mean, whatnot like that. But I feel like a lot of the ways that I interact and experience supernatural activity and spirits is very opposite to how other people experience it. And I guess, does that answer the question?
It does.
Okay.
And even Melvin said, don't worry, you're doing a great job explaining and speaking.
Thank
I
you.
also agree. But and Dr. Czar from History and Headlines and Your Paranormal says, you're another fantastic and fascinating guest. Okay, there's, again, so many. I'm going to get to everyone. Linda, she was 4 years old when she saw that child with the fire truck on her bed. And it's wild that you've been hit, pushed, pinched, fun times. I remember when I went to, it was my first investigation. It was at Mansfield, and the tour guide there was like, yeah, and this kid was like easily like 300 pounds or at least like 280. It was like working out and everything. He's like, yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I'll just get pushed down the stairs. I'm like, that's my first investigation. I said, why am I here?
Yeah, no, I have experienced, I've been lucky in not experiencing an excessive amount of aggression. But I have been slapped, I've been pushed, I've been yanked. I do come in contact with a lot of children. I do get a lot of children, young spirits that have, and the difficulty with them is a lot of them aren't aware that they're dead. Some of them are, and those are the ones that like to rip my food out of the cabinets and open my fridge door. And I had one that used to pull the Oreos. He would open the snack cabinet and pull the Oreos out on the counter.
That's where we draw the line. Okay.
I'm like, sir, you better get out of my Oreos.
Yeah. Canned corn is fine. Green beans, we're all good. But when they start touching the Oreos,
you better get out of my Oreos. Yeah.
We got to draw a line somewhere.
I had a little girl. I've been in this house since like 2016, and I will state that it doesn't matter where I'm living. I could be in a tent in somebody's backyard and I will still have spirits hanging out with me. This house was empty. Like when I moved in, there was nothing in it. And now it's just a traffic jam at all times. They just follow me. They just come through. The last place I lived, they traffic jam. It was an apartment, like a duplex apartment. Like nothing had happened there. There was no reason for anything. They just push on through. They're like, what's that? Oh, it's Lindsay. And then they just come right on in. I have been very lucky in not having to deal with. I have aggressive spirits. I have been attacked in this house, um, but I do get an excessive amount of children. I've had probably. We moved in May of 2016. I've had probably 24 children come through this house. And one of the first ones was a little girl. Her name was Millie. Um, she loved my son, my older boy. She was always in his room. She liked to play with his toys. She scared him. He could see her, and she would stand at the end of his bed and wave at him while he was trying to sleep, and he was petrified.
Of course, as one would be.
But Millie was unaware that she had passed. And she had been in the house for a long time, and I told her she was looking for her mom, and then she would see me interacting with Adam, and she started to. I would hear her in the house, Mom, but she would be calling for me, like, because Adam would call for me, and I knew that she was looking for a mom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, it's she needs to go. She needs to move on. It's not going to get any better from here. And I remember the day I had a friend over, who was also a little intuitive and a little sensitive. And I told Millie, I said, honey, I'm like, you died, you passed away. You know, uh, I don't know. I looked into it. She couldn't tell me anything. She was maybe 4 or 5. She was
Okay.
very young. She spoke with like how little kids have that little lisp.
Yeah.
She would speak with like a little lisp. And she couldn't tell me anything. She couldn't tell me her last name. She couldn't tell me, she couldn't tell me how old she was. So I don't know if she had been dead for a long time and could just not remember, who she was, other than, or Millie may not have even been her name. She may have picked it up somewhere because she was very young. And I remember I told her, I'm like, honey, I'm like, do you see a light? Do you see somewhere to go? Is there someone that can take you? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's where you need to go. You can't stay here. This is not where you're meant to be. It's time to move on. And she said, okay. And then I stood up and she slapped me in the face. I had a little tiny child handprint on my face, like little fingers. And it felt like the only way I can describe it is being slapped by the wind. Like,
Yeah.
poof, like it was just like a really strong, solid gust of wind hit me in the face, and my ear started ringing and my face tingled. And it didn't actually hurt. It was shocking, obviously, because like my head moved when she did it. But she hit me in the face. And I'm like, and I actually think I have a picture of that. I think my friend of mine, the friend that was here, I think she took a picture of, you could see I'll have to talk to her and see if she still got it. These little child fingers on my face. And she got very upset, and she got very destructive in the house after that. She was very prone to pushing things over. She did attempt to try and push me down the stairs a couple times, which didn't do much for her because she wasn't putting a whole lot of pressure into it, but I could feel the pressure of her trying to push me. She unscrewed one of my lights, the light above my front door. The fixture was screwed in, and she unscrewed the fixture, and I watched it drop and hit the floor and just shatter. And I'm like, no, like, that's enough. And she was probably my most aggressive child spirit. I didn't have any that were excessive like that, but she was very upset. And that does happen sometimes. They do get, because they're confused and they're scared, just like normal alive children are. They can be exactly the same way. They're just lost. She did end up moving on eventually. I eventually got her to the point where she could, but she was so little. She was so young. And Adam was ecstatic to have her gone because she freaked him out.
Understandably.
But I also had a mother and a child in the house at one point.
Okay.
I don't remember what the mother's name was, but the little boy's name was Jeffrey. And he liked to play the piano. He liked to play the piano in the middle of the night when everyone's sleeping.
That's gross.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone can imagine, like, 2, 3 in the morning and just hearing your piano go off.
I'm so used to it that, like, I slept right through it. The first time it happened, I slept right through it. It was my husband that heard it, and he does not, ghosts are not real. He doesn't believe in that stuff. And he's a logic guy. If I can't see it, taste it, smell it, hear it, it's not real. And I think this was the first time he ever was like, oh. And when this was actually like shortly after we first moved in, and there was the previous owners of the house had left a piano behind, and it was here in the dining room. It was behind me right here. And we had like a fold-up table because we hadn't moved our dining room table in yet. So we had just like a fold-up, pop-up table, and it was against the piano in here. We had pushed it up against the piano. And so there was no way for you to access the piano without moving the table or basically climbing up on the table and sitting there. And my husband heard the piano being played in the middle of the night, and he came downstairs. It was dark. He's like, okay, and then I didn't know anything about it. I slept through it. And then he called me when I was leaving work the next day, and he's like, hey, did you hear somebody playing the piano last night? And I was like, no, why? He's like, well, I asked Adam this morning if it was him, and he said no. And I was like, were any of the lights on in the house when you got up to check? He said no. I said, then it wasn't Adam. I'm like, because when Adam gets up in the middle of the night, he turns on both hall lights, kitchen light, living room light, bathroom light, dining room light. Every light in the house is on. We're lighting up the universe just to get a drink of water. And I said, then it wasn't Adam, because he would not have shut all the lights off on his way back up. He would have got something to drink and went right back upstairs and left every light in the house on. I'm like, it wasn't Adam. And he was like, was the table moved? He's like, no. I'm like, and I think that was the first time he really questioned like the paranormal for a second, But yeah, I've had a lot of fun, interesting interactions in this house. Adam is very intuitive, and as he's getting older, it's becoming more prominent. When he was a baby, probably maybe a year, I had a woman that lived that was passed on, that she was a spirit in the house. I actually have a picture of her. I asked her if I could take her picture, and I was like, can you stand in the doorway? And I took the picture, and you can see a woman leaning against my dresser right next to the doorway in the picture. She loved Adam. She loved him. She would sit, and he would stack. He had those little like wooden blocks with the little letters on them, and he would stack them, and she would push them over. I would sit there and watch it for a good solid hour. He would stack all the blocks, and she would push them over, and she would move them. I'd watch the blocks move along the linoleum like on their own, and she would play with him. Yeah.
The paranormal investigator in me says, man, you got to get a video of that. You know what
right?
I mean?
I had no phone at that time. Like the picture that I took of her, a friend took for me, and then I got the picture from her later. But I wish I could have recorded. That was 11 years ago,
Yeah.
And but she was and Adam was very comfortable. He thought it was fantastic. He would reach for her and and play with her, and it freaked his dad out real bad. So
yeah,
But I'm like,
So
what? I don't know.
this,
It's
well,
just a dead lady. I don't know what your problem is.
I mean, but this was about 24 minutes ago. Um, Before I understood this, I was a lone wolf to keep away from people. Is that why spirits appear to me as well? With 3 question marks. And this is pertaining to when we were talking about being empathic, and certain people that might need healing are drawn to us or drawn to empaths. And Debbie was wondering, because she's empathic as well, even though she's kind of like a lone wolf when it comes to people, that spirits are still finding her way to her.
Um, so if I'm understanding the question correctly, so is she asking because, like people that need healing, people that are damaged, like she doesn't put herself out into the public to attract those people? Is that why the spirits come to her in like more excessively? Is that
Well, I think it's because when you were sharing your experiences, she's an empath, I'm assuming, and because she doesn't want those people that might need excessive healing, she's almost like a lone wolf. But there's so many spirits that are attracted to her, and I think there's something in her head clicked where it's like, oh, you know, I'm a lone wolf because I don't want to deal with that many damaged people, but maybe
yeah.
that's why I'm having an excessive amount of spirits.
Um, I still deal with an excessive, like, I'm a glutton for punishment. I tell myself I'm going to avoid people like that, but I put myself through the ringer to help those people anyway. I give a lot more than I get back most of the time, all of the time. Um, but I still attract an excessive amount of spirits. I think it's just comes with the job description. I think as an empath, you're going to attract them regardless. Like whether you put energy into alive people that are alive, or or choose to interact with people that are passed on. um, the energy that you put out as an empath is going to attract both regardless. Now I know there are some empaths that can control that. They can, so they're less noticeable, so to
Mhm.
speak. um, I have never. I can't shut it off. I tried. I'm on all the time.
Then Kara asks almost the inverse of that. What's your advice on honing your skills when it comes to empathic abilities? If you think you may have them, but have always ignored them.
So if you think you have, so you don't want to use them, is that what I'm understanding?
No. So like you've never honed in on your empathic abilities, but in the back of your mind, you always thought you might have them.
Oh,
What's
so how do
one way
you
to
like
hone your
refine them
skills?
to,
Refine them.
yeah,
Correct.
refine them to see. To be painfully honest, I'm gonna just repeat myself. All of the abilities that I've honed, all the abilities that I use now, the point that I've reached at this point has all been trial by fire.
Mhm.
Like I've focused on people, the way that people are feeling. Um, and you do it unconsciously. It's something that you don't realize. Like I'll feel very irritated, like I'll be at work and suddenly I'm excessively irritated for some reason. And there's somebody standing 4 feet from me who is excessively irritated, and I picked it up without meaning to.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, unfortunately, empaths are a touch bipolar before they learn to control it. Your emotions end up everywhere. If you're in a room full of people, you can get excessively overwhelmed when you can't control it. Um, if it's like a party, yeah, the energy is going to be very high. It's going to be very happy for the most part, which is excellent.
Mhm.
But if you're just out in public, and who's to say, let's say you're at Cedar Point and you're just wandering through Cedar Point, you're around people that are happy. There are probably people that are irritated, people that are tired, people that are depressed, things that you're going to be exposed to 15 different emotions all at once, and you're going to feel all of those at once. And I dealt with that a lot. Like, I was very, it makes you feel very out of control. And you have to learn to turn it off.
Yeah.
A very good piece of advice that my psychic medium friend taught me, and a lot of people know this one, and this newfangled generation, when they tell you to go touch grass, that's a legitimate thing. If you are feeling an excessive amount of energy, if you've been exposed to, as an empath, an excessive amount of emotions that you can't tune out, go out and stick your feet in the grass, and you just focus. You can focus on that energy as being black or, a certain color, but just look at it as like a blob, and you just push it down through your body into the earth. I felt a little crazy the first time I did it. I'm like, I'm just out here in my bare feet, just pretending to push invisible energy into the dirt. But it is a phenomenal, amazing when you can, and it does not take an excessive amount of concentration. And it's something that is essential as an empath, especially when you're learning to tune out other people's emotions. As for honing it on the sensory side, in being able to tell what people are feeling, a lot of times I can tell what people are thinking because of the feelings that they're having. I'm not a psychic, and I can't read minds, but I can, through emotions, a lot of times feel the thought process that someone's having. And occasionally I'm wrong. It happens. Can't be right all the time. But it's something that you literally, you have to just slow exposure. Small steps at a time. Do it with a trusted friend. Have them focus on a particular feeling. Don't let them don't show it on their face. Have them feel something. Think about something that makes them angry, and focus on them to feel it. You know what I mean? I had a friend that would get, that I practiced with, that she would get excessively angry, and she was the one that helped me tune it out. I could shut it off. It's good to do it with people that you're familiar with, because they're easier to grasp onto than people that you don't know. Until the more you use it, the stronger it gets. It's like exercising, but in a metaphysical sense. You're exercising your aura, your chakra, your whatever. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, and the more control you can have over it. If you choose, I know people that have abilities that choose to ignore them. They pretend they don't exist. And eventually they will go dormant if you don't use them. It's, once again, like exercising. If you don't do it, eventually, your muscle mass disappears. You get very weak. And that's the same thing with any type of ability like that. If you choose not to use it, eventually it goes away.
Gotcha. Now, I'm not sensitive at all, but from just interviewing people, I think, like, if you've never started to hone these abilities, I wouldn't just focus on like the offense. I focus on the offense and the defense. And what I mean by that is, like, as you're learning to pick up more on the empath abilities, whether you're trying to get in more tune with spirits or understanding people's feelings, at the same time learning how to shield and ground yourself, and those extreme situations where you need to touch grass or touch the earth or trees, learn those at the same time.
Absolutely. Because you will get overwhelmed one way or the other if you don't keep them at a balance. Because if you teach yourself to sense things but cannot control how much of it actually gets into you, you're going to get overwhelmed. If you come in contact with someone who's excessively depressed, you will become excessively depressed. I've come in contact with people unawares. I wasn't fully aware and I was down. I was just open and I had immediately had suicidal thoughts. Like immediately. And I'm like, oh, well, that's unacceptable. Let's get rid of that. Um, and that's the danger of being on that end of things, is when you can feel being an empath doesn't mean you just feel other people's emotions. You feel them. You feel what they're feeling. And some empaths can project their own feelings onto other people. You kind of do that naturally. That's what attracts, like people that are damaged or in need of some kind of healing. They're attracted to that energy that you put out. But you can also project your own happiness, your own anger, your own sadness onto other people, far more than just being in the room. Two normal people being in a room and being sad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you got to be careful of that too. If you're not completely mentally stable as an empath, you can hurt people. So.
And Kara had a little follow-up comment here. I really want to talk to you about this. She also gets tingles as well, kind of like how you were describing what kind of feelings that you got. And again, this is the same person that in the back of her mind kind of had thoughts that she might be empathic. However, she never really honed it. So she says, I really want to talk to you about this. I get tingles too. And got hit in the head after being swore at on a ghost box. So interesting. But again, I always doubt if that's what is really happening. So she's unsure.
That's understandable. You feel a little crazy. I felt a little crazy. People have called me crazy. I've been called crazy more often than I'd like to admit. But it's something that if you doubt it, it can go one of two ways. Like spirits, a lot of times if you ignore them, they may put up a fuss, but they'll go away. They find no entertainment in someone who's not going to entertain them. You know what I mean? And it is weird. And even the slightest, I have spirits that try to hold my hand. They'll try and hold my hand. I'll feel like a hand, like a pressure in my hand, like a tingly pressure in my hand. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm doing something right now. I don't want to hold your hand. Like, I could go somewhere. What are you doing? But I felt crazy. And I still feel crazy sometimes now. Like the things that I'm seeing things. Like I get little peekaboos around the corners and, I'll be sitting and I have friends that come over and the spirits are very active upstairs and my floor is very creaky when you walk on it. And when they come over, we'll be doing something and they'll hear doo, 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 doo. They'll hear the floor creaking like somebody's walking down the hall. They hear a door shut and I'm like, nah, it's just the local ghost. That's fine. And they're like, it doesn't freak you out? I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're sleeping in bed with me at this point. Like, but I still get anxiety. I still get that weird feeling when I go out. I'm not completely 1,000%, confident just walking into a dark room, and especially if I can feel like something's there. It's very common to have that weird anxiety feeling. That's just common for spirits. They cause that. But there's a difference between that ooh feeling and like, oh God, something's wrong. Like I said before, I have only been attacked once in my house, like violently attacked. And that was actually Actually, Brian, I think I texted you the day after it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened this past year. I got up. I was having trouble sleeping. I couldn't sleep. And I was laying in bed, and I felt breath on my ear. And I heard someone whisper Lindsay in my ear, and I thought it was my husband for a second. And I like freaked out, and I'm like, what? Like, and he's dead asleep, snoring, gone. But it was clear as day in my ear. And I'm like, ooh, nope, getting up. Nope, bye. I'm going. Excuse you. I don't want nothing to do with that. I'm good. I'm trying to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
And normally, like, they will try and bother me when I'm sleeping, and I tell them, listen, I have things to do tomorrow. I'm like, I need you to leave me alone. I'm trying to go to bed. And normally they'll back off. But that particular night, it was pretty intense, and I felt an excessive need to get up. So I got up, and I was like, I'm just going to get a drink. I'll just get some chalky milk and, have a drink, and maybe I'll eat a little snack, and I'll just go back to bed. I'm fine. So I came downstairs, and I was leaning on the counter, and I was reading something on my phone, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe, like, at all. Like, my chest tightened up like somebody was squeezing the life out of my lungs. And I got super, like, excessively lightheaded. Like, my vision started getting black around the edges, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. And I sat down on the kitchen floor for a second, and I'm like, I need to get back upstairs to my husband. I need to wake him up in case I pass out.
Yeah.
So I crawled up the stairs, and I got into the bedroom, and I couldn't even speak. Like, my throat was closed. My chest was like, it felt like I had an elephant sitting on my chest. And I'm like shaking his foot, and I'm like, wait, and and he sits up, he's like, I'm like, something's wrong, like, and he's looking at me, and I'm just laying there like face down in the bed, and it took probably a solid 40 to 50 seconds for it to dissipate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I just got attacked. Like something just viciously tried to attack me. And I did not go back to bed. I was like, I can't sleep now. Like, I can't do it. Like, I checked on my kids, and I'm like, nope. That's nope. So next morning, got everybody up, took one kid to school, came back home. I tore every window in the house open, and I got out all my stuff, my sage, and I was cleansing the house and clearing that. I'm like, you are not welcome in here. Whatever you were, that is unacceptable. We do not do that here. So, and then it never happened again, and there's been nothing since. But it was scary. That was a very scary experience. That was a far step above, I've had my hair pulled. I've been, slapped. I've been pushed. I've been, I've been touched multiple times. Like, it was nothing like that. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die on my kitchen floor drinking chocolate milk. Like, it was horrifying. And that actually happens fairly often. People get attacked like that. And now that I've experienced it myself, I'm like, oh, no. No.
Yeah, you don't want to mess around with that. And I mean, we're all, we all appreciate your stories and your experiences and your advice. Kathy's absolutely fantastic. She's listening with Tony. She's enjoying your stories. And, just based on that connection, she feels like, you guys have met before. And,
Thank you.
Kathy is absolutely fantastic. I want to say she's been on 2 Your Paranormal Investigations. I'm gonna say it was a photography place in Madison Seminary.
Okay.
Oh, and one other one. It was the photography place. It was Madison Seminary, and we went to a private residence. and all before COVID. So,
Okay.
oh my gosh. For any of you who just think I'm weird and have a big list of things, I
You
I
are
have
weird and have a big list of things.
I am weird. I do have a big list of things. Uh, we have a stupid powerful CRM that has all of our members' data of which investigations they've been on, what roles they've been. Very, very particular in making sure that we can remember all of our experiences. And because I value every time that someone comes on an investigation with your paranormal, it's very, very sentimental to me. Yeah, so she's been 3 times. She's been phenomenal. She's sensitive as well. She's just a beautiful human being. She's helped my family out, my team out. So, our team. She's fantastic. Um, well, first off, Melvin says, "Holy crap!" Or sorry, "Holy cow!" That's beyond terrifying. What are some things you've changed to doing to ensure that you're not attacked or experience anything like that? But what Melvin's not, look, man, all I'm saying is, hi, friends. Talk about terrifying experiences. That's a whole nother topic. So, hey, who knows? 6'11". But here we are with Melvin. Melvin.
Bryan.
So for someone who is either has been sensitive or has not been sensitive, and they get attacked in that paranormal way, or that kind of experience, what do you do to ensure that that doesn't happen again, or doesn't happen in the first place?
Well, like I said, that was the first time that I've been attacked like that ever in my life. Like I have never, and like I said, I've come in contact with demonic entities dozens of times. Um and I've never been attacked like that. Like they do make you feel ill. Um Demonic entities do, and I do believe that was what I was attacked by that night. I do believe that was demonic. I've never had a spirit come at me like that. Um the amount of energy that it would take to attack a human like that, to attack someone who's alive and make them that, shut down that fast. It was in a matter of 3 to 5 seconds, and I was on the floor. Like it happened so fast. It cut my air off 3 to 5 seconds. Like the whole experience happened over from the kitchen to me getting upstairs was no more than 12 seconds. Because I drug myself upstairs as fast as I could. I was terrified. I didn't know what else to do. I had to be near someone in case I went down. I am very careful about what comes into my home. I am very careful what goes out of my home. And I'm very careful what I allow into my home supernaturally. Anything that does come in is given the set of rules right off the bat. I know when there's a new spirit in the house. I can feel it immediately. They are told this is how you behave. This is what it is. If you follow these rules, you can stay. If you don't, I'll push you out. I do deal with crystals, sage, things that lean more towards a Wiccan step. Doing salt. There you can go obsessive with it. You know what I mean? I do keep 4 crystals in each corner of my home. That is an old Wiccan practice. It is meant to create a supernatural barrier that keeps out negative energies. Obviously, it's worked this long. I don't do it for myself. I'm not afraid. I feel that I could handle 99% of what comes into my home, but I do it for my children because Adam is intuitive, he is sensitive, and he is showing signs of things that I didn't experience till I was much older. So it's coming on to him much faster, and I know that he cannot control it at the age that he's at. But the baby also shows into. But children of that age, they don't. Their third eye is already open. A baby, when you're an infant or a toddler, up until you become self-aware, which can be anywhere from 3 to 5, your third eye is just open. You can see spirits, you can interact with spirits, with no bounds. Nathan can see the spirits in the house. I watch him on his baby monitor interact with them while he's in his crib, when he's in his bed. He gives me names of people that do not live here, that he's never met. You know what I mean? But I assume if Adam has picked up the ability, it'll probably transfer to the youngest as well. It's gone through my family line. It's come down through my family line, and with each generation it gets stronger. I'm stronger than the people before me, and my children will be more intuitive than I am as they go on. But I do recommend, if you do feel, I do regular cleansings of my house each season. I cleanse my house. I open all the doors and windows. I push any spirits that are welcome to stay. I tell them to leave temporarily, and I clear the whole house out. And then it is always very good. Negativity attracts negativity. A dirty house attracts dirty spirits.
Yes.
And clutter doesn't count. I mean, it does, but a dirty house attracts dirty energy, dirty spirits. To prevent things like that from happening, you don't have to have a spotless house. You don't have to have that. But you can go from as simple as making sure you mop your floor twice a week to, putting crystals. You would put them in the far furthest corners of your home, garage included. That includes the garage. If your garage is attached in that fashion where it's, you know what I mean, you would put it that way.
What kind of crystals?
Quartz. Or you can use amethyst are protection crystals. I like to use quartz. They work very well for me. But I feel and this is where I differ from a lot of other people too in crystal work, I don't choose crystals based on what they're used for. I choose them based on what I feel is needed. I will reach into my bag, and what I feel is what I'm supposed to be using is what I use. Both kids have crystals in their rooms. Adam has crystals in his room that he chose himself. They were what he was most attracted to. Adam likes jasper, and jasper is a calming crystal. So it helps him keep calm. That's what he needs, apparently, and that's what his body knows he needs, is a calming effect. And Nathan, the toddler, he's very attracted to carnelian. So, but yeah, it's not difficult to shield yourself from attacks like that. They can happen regardless of anything you do. Obviously, I was attacked in my home under full protection and with no provocation. You know what I mean? It can just happen.
Yeah.
But you definitely, if it does, you need to know what you need to do after the fact, and that is clear everything out. Get out.
And Kathy, yes, it's way too long. It's been 2 years. We need to get back together. We got to get an investigation going this year, okay? Whether it's in the summer or the fall. Let's get it going. The other question Melvin had, a little follow-up, is, with these crystals, do you have to charge them up at all? Do you have to do anything special with them?
Yes.
Okay, so...
certain crystals are sun crystals. They charge in sunlight, and other crystals are charged in moonlight. I just put mine on the windowsill. I don't like to put them outside because critters like to take off with them. I have too many raccoons and they like shiny things. So I don't want the neighborhood raccoon taken off with my $30 crystal. So you can just put them on a windowsill as long as they're able to reach direct sunlight or direct moonlight. I can't give you like an exact list of which is which.
Yeah.
I honestly, I look it up. Like that's a lot of information to retain. I know certain ones that have to be in the moonlight, certain ones that have to be in sunlight. But yeah, you want to do that, and it doesn't have to be done excessively. It doesn't have to be done every day. It doesn't have to be. Your crystals will tell you when they need charge. They'll discolor. Quartz will become foggy or yellow. Sometimes they get a little black inside, and then you just charge them and they clear back up. It's a very weird experience the first time you experience it, to have a crystal change colors, and then when you charge it, it goes back to what it was originally. But after an excessive amount of attracting energy, or repelling negative energy, they will change color, and the crystals, you'll be able to tell when they need charged. Yeah. And they do crack when they're getting to the point where they're no longer usable. If you've had them for a long time, and there is an old witch's wives' tale kind of deal. If you buy a crystal and it immediately breaks, you're meant to share it with someone. So
where'd you get that?
I've been told that for years. I bought a crystal a couple years ago, and I had it in the car with me, and I was looking at it while I was driving, and I dropped it onto the seat. Like, it fell like between my legs onto the seat, and it cracked right there on a leather seat. And I was meant to share it with the person that was in the car with me. It broke because she needed a piece too. Yeah.
Okay, that's wild.
Is that weird? Yeah, it's weird.
No, I just never heard it. That's cool. So I have this video. I want your advice on it.
Okay.
All right. Honest feedback.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready?
Absolutely.
I'll just put it here.
It says in my new book,
the doors kept opening.
Trust your instincts.
Go for it.
This is crazy, isn't it?
That's right, Lindsay. It is the part of the podcast where it's called Into the Abyss. It's like a lightning round.
All right.
And I'm going to ask you 13 fast fire questions, and you got to answer them as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. But quickly.
Absolutely.
Okay. Dr. Z wants to know. Okay, but we'll get to that. All right, Lindsay, 13 fast fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, this is the part where Sean would say, all eyes on you. I'll give you number 1 and number 13 as a reference point. Let's begin. Number 1. Lindsay, if you got to create a new piece of paranormal equipment, what would it do special, and what would it be called?
It would be something that makes the spirits visible to everyone in the room so that everyone can experience it.
And what would it be called?
Ghost sight.
Ghost sight. I love it. Some say there is no afterlife. Or no life after death. How would you describe the afterlife to them?
I believe in the astral plane.
It's
something like just another little layer of the earth where you just go there.
Gotcha. Top 3 pieces of paranormal equipment to use on an investigation.
Well, I don't know if it'd be considered paranormal, but I always take crystals, an EMF reader, and a spirit box.
Best way to have a meaningful conversation with a spirit.
Understand that not all spirits are the same, and that someone you're interacting with is or can be confused if they've been dead a long time and you need to show them respect.
Okay, now, what's a location you haven't investigated yet but always wanted to go?
I want to go over to like Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, and investigate the castles there.
Beautiful. What is a practical way of using crystals?
A crystal grid.
What is a crystal grid?
Crystal grid is something that you use to amplify the crystals and set the vibrations in the room or the building.
If you got to create a haunted doll, what would it look like and what would it be called?
Oh, it would have to be a porcelain doll. I would definitely have a porcelain doll. They creep me out real bad.
Mhm.
And I would probably call her, it would be a female, and she would be Leanne.
How are aliens and the paranormal related?
How are aliens and the paranormal related? There's been excessive amounts of proof for both, but there's still something that is considered widely unbelievable.
Ooh, what's the number one key to success in the paranormal field?
Patience.
Oh gosh, you're so good. Why are crystals and mirrors so powerful?
They're gateways.
2 paranormal pet peeves.
Oh God. People that cannot take the investigation seriously, and people that fake it to get attention.
Why would you recommend people start their paranormal adventure if they haven't already?
Because the experience is so eye-opening, and it gives you a greater view of the world around you. You get a whole new view of how things go around you. You learn a very high level of respect.
This is the fastest and most thorough Into the Abyss section ever, probably. This is number 13. The paranormal field is full of unanswered questions. If you got to get the answer to one question, what would it be?
Oh God, that one's rough. Honestly, it's really not paranormal, but I guess it kind of could be. Which religion is correct?
Gotcha. Now, I want to just throw like an extra one in here. I mean, you've got a beautiful paranormal community here, just on this little platform. They're so interactive. They're asking you a bunch of questions. They're really getting into your stories, your experiences, and they just absolutely love you. What's one message that you want to give them tonight?
Do it. Take the chance. If you feel like you're empathic, you feel like you're intuitive, investigate it. If you want to look for ghosts, do it. Absolutely. Take the experience. Find someone to guide you on those first few steps, but do it yourself. Take the steps and do what feels right, and enjoy it. It's so much fun.
There it is. Now, come on, guys. That was a beautiful Into the Abyss section. Wow, that was quick, and we got pretty thorough. I like that. And yeah, I mean, we've been answering a lot of the people's questions so far tonight, and I know we only got like 30 more minutes, but I just gotta tell a lovely story about you, Lindsay, real quick. So Lindsay and I have been on 2 investigations. One was at the Gill House, and I died. Sometimes you just die. But the first one, it was supposed to be you, me, and Gloria couldn't make it, and it's you and me at this old creepy nunnery with attached school grounds. And if any of you listening could imagine, this wasn't your first investigation, or was it like your first like?
It was my first one with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't my first like it was my first quote unquote professional investigation.
Oh,
I've gone on
yeah, I mean, it was
my first
hilarious, you know?
professional one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Unless there's an itinerary, is it really? No.
Exactly. And you know what, Bryan? I love your itineraries. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yes.
There's only so much value I can bring. But let me tell you something. I've been on closing in on 55 investigations over the last 9 years. Um, and people always ask me, Bryan, you've been on 50 plus, you've been doing this for 9 years. Like, what kind of experiences, have you seen anything? Have you really gotten anything? And I'm like, well, back when Madison Seminary used to let you sleep there, someone accidentally took a finger of this doll that said, don't like the ghosts don't like the doll to be moved. There was a finger, put it in where we were sleeping, heard some weird stuff, like a teddy bear got dragged down, and I felt 3 kicks on my air mattress right next to my feet. Like, hey, there's infinite amount of numbers in the world, homies. You can't be kicking right there 3 times. Like, that's a little too much. You know what I mean? You give me like one. But other than that, it's really just been the other experiences from other people. Until you and I went to that creepy old nunnery with a creepy old school, and you used this mirror grid. And for me, I'm like, nah, man, like, I don't mess with Ouija boards. And you're like, well, look at this cool thing. And I said, hey, that doesn't look like a Ouija board to me. You're just charging up some energy. I understand, go ahead and, explain. First off, can you explain to everyone, like, what you did with this crystal energy grid thing? Like, because I didn't understand what's going on.
Okay.
Walk us through it.
So, actually, hold on. Let me grab it. I'll show you. I'll show you.
You guys are in for a real treat. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything.
Okay.
I had been on 45 plus at the time. I didn't know what was going on. Let me tell you something.
So this is a crystal grid.
Active investigation. Go ahead.
See, it's a little piece of mirror, and it has copper on it.
That's it.
That's all it is. It's just a little round mirror. They come in different shapes. They come in different patterns. The copper on them. This is a very basic one. This was the first one I ever bought, and it's the only one I've ever needed. And what it does is you put crystals on it, and I normally put mine. I put the central crystal right here, the one I want to use the most energy of, which I normally use a black tourmaline, which is an amplifier. And then I kind of just let the place that I'm in kind of choose what I need for it. Well, you saw, I just pulled random crystals out of the bag and put them on there. I didn't check anything. Everything that came out, I just put it on there. You put them in the little corners wherever they're needed, however many you need. It doesn't have to be any specific pattern. I just put on as many as I felt was needed, and then it told me to stop, and I stopped. And then I have a pendulum that I hang over top of it, and I slowly turn it. And the pendulum will slowly start to spin faster. And when the pendulum is swinging the circumference of the crystal grid, it is aligned with the energies in the building. And what it does is it amplifies the energies to help the spirits interact. It gives them the energy, it feeds them the energy they need to interact with you and to react, to move things. I don't go anywhere without it, especially if we're going somewhere where I feel like it's going to need that little extra push to help them interact. And I told you when we went that I was going to make sure you got some good, solid evidence. And it was a very large area, and I felt like using the crystal grid would help push those vibrations and match them and give them that energy that they needed to talk, to knock on things, to turn things on, to, and yeah, it's not anything. It's not witchcraft. It's not anything dangerous, or you can't hurt yourself doing it. The worst thing that can happen when you do it is that you put an excessive amount of energy out into the room and you get an apparition. They have enough energy to manifest. So
And that's what, so actually, Dr. Czar here from History and Headlines. Dr. Z is a good friend of mine and good friend from ours. Huge part of Your Paranormal, by the way. Dr. Z, you love this. You know, Dr. Z's been on like 50 or so as well. And, you know, he's like, you know, like at what point, like, you know, because he's very grounded like myself. And, you know, like, man, why don't we just try a Ouija board? I'm like, you know, that's fine. But just for me and the people that I'm around, I have a very clear no Ouija board. But,
and I understand that, and that's smart. That is a smart thing, Bryan, because a Ouija board is exceptionally dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I will admit I do use a Ouija board occasionally. But I put the fail-safes in place to protect myself and anyone else using it.
There's the other thing. Like, how many people use the Ouija board with you?
I normally only have one other person.
When we run these investigations, 10?
You can have up to, it's a matter of room on the planchette. You could have 10 people doing it, but that's a little excessive.
I guess it's not just that. It's like, no matter how many, like, you don't know, like, in my opinion, everyone's got to be on the same page. And
exactly.
Some people might say they're on the same page, but they're not.
People are terrified of Ouija boards. They're terrified of them because of the dangers of them, and they have a right to be afraid of them because you can unleash some craziness upon yourself. They are dangerous to use if you don't use them properly and you're not using them with someone. It's something you have to take completely seriously. Anytime, it's not something you do to play a game. Like teenage girls in the room, what's my future husband's name? Like, no. That's not what that's for. Like, that's a good way to get yourself hurt. I've had good interactions on it. I've been insulted. You know, I've been called some things. But it's not something you take lightly, and it's not something I would recommend on a paranormal investigation, especially with that many people, because the energies of all the people, there are too many nervous energies. You may have 3 calm people and 8 people that are like, oh my God, I'm going to die tonight. That kind of energy attracts demonic activity. It is something that has to be done with a calm mind and control.
Yeah, and I know, you know, Ken uses them too. That's like my biggest thing. One, I don't even know, like, if I, like, because people say, Bryan, you've been on so many, you know, you can hone your empathic skills. I'm like, I don't even know if I want that.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary.
So I'm cool to be grounded. Okay. Yeah. And then it's the same thing with the Ouija board. Like, oh man, you can get so much good stuff. I'm like, that's great. But like for me, I'm like, I don't know if I want to take that kind of risk, even if it's just like 101. But with the amount of people, it's like a for sure no for me, just because
that's too many people. It's too many varied energies.
But even if it's like 5, say like it's 5 on investigation, and you know, Dr. Z's like, hey, I got a, you know, or someone else, like Drew says, hey, I got a Ouija board in my trunk. You know, like this place is pretty dead. You want to use this? You know, like at that point, like what if all 5 of us say yes, but one of us is like, I'm only saying yes because everyone else wants to. And it's like, that's the recipe for disaster.
I would not use one in like an insane asylum, a prison. I only use it in my own home. I've only used it in people's homes. just for a visual for people that cannot feel what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary. It's fun. Like I have, like when I do it, like it's very cool. The feelings, like your fingers get cold, and you do get the paranormal side of it. And it's very interesting to watch it and feel the pull and whatnot. But I wouldn't recommend one on a paranormal investigation, even with just 5 people. It's too dangerous, and you don't know what you're walking into with it. You know what I mean? And if somebody gets scared, you don't close the board properly, you don't take the precautions that you need, not everyone is on board, you could end up setting loose things you really don't want loose. You know what I mean? It's not something that I recommend.
Yeah.
For, I don't use it very often. I used to. And but it's something you do have to be careful with. It's not a toy. Like,
Yeah. So I gotta just like roll on with the story real quick here.
yeah, go ahead.
No. I'm the one that brought it up, but ever since we did this, let me see. I'm pulling it up here, so I'm at like 53. So that's 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. So I've done 54. And we did this at Nunnery 4. So I have done 12 investigations after this, which is insane, actually. So I've done, so just for everyone's like mental picture here, for 12 investigations, I've sat here and thought, I wish Lindsay was here to pull out, and I was so ignorant, I just forgot the name, like the grid, like the energy grid, the
Crystal grid.
Crystal grid. Oh man, there's like so many times where it's just like, I wish the spirits had that much energy. Now, so like I'm very grounded. I'm very, like as grounded as analytical, but like, let's roll. So we go here, and so this was Nunnery 4. So there's only been Nunnery 1, 2, and 3. And Nunnery 1 had 3 people. It was not very active, and it was just the nunnery. The nunnery just wasn't very active. Nunnery 2 and 3 had the school grounds as well. So if everyone can imagine, there's 3 pieces of location. There's a small right school building, a large left school building with a gym and some weird confessional stuff and all that gross, and tunnels and stuff. And then here's the nunnery. But right now it's being used as an office and like we don't have to go into like what it is now, but it was an old nunnery, Byzantine Catholic nunnery, and Byzantine Catholic school grounds. And from Nunnery 1, there really wasn't much anything until we got access to the school. So now for Nunnery 2 and 3, very active. Maybe a little bit in the nunnery, but boy, it is really in the left large school building with the confessionals and everything. Like the left large school buildings here, the nunneries here, and then the other one, the small right buildings were here. By the time that Lindsay and I left, the nunnery had just, I'm talking, this is the most active I've ever had it. We heard distant woman screams, the sounds of hell, random things being plugged in. There was that weird, inhuman blah 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 in the basement, and even like, so I guess like from like a scientific perspective, you had a location that like not too much happened at the nunnery, but other activity at the other places. Now that you do the crystal grid at that location, it shoots up times 20. And though you still get the activity at the other places too. I mean, we rarely got anything at the smaller right building. You had your hand touched or handheld. The other building, in like the confessional area, just like where everyone else, like you felt touched there too. But you remember when we were trying to find like where's the running water?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was in the nunnery.
Barb and the flame. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
You got that on film.
I got everything on. I got everything on film.
Yes, you did.
This is the craziest thing because like I am very grounded. You said I'm gonna pull out a flame. We're gonna talk to your doll. What do you want me to say? You know, we ain't gonna talk to this doll. That flame moved. Yeah, just like, you know, just totally like this, you know, standing still, doing this. Yeah. Hey, Barb, try and blow it out. And we've been doing it for 5 minutes. Like there's, and then the crystal grid. We're hearing the sounds of women like screaming off in the distance.
We heard women talking in the hall back there too. We heard we were talking in the room, and then we heard women down the hall having a. You got up and you're like, "Hello," like.
Can you kind of like, just because everyone has different memories of it? Can you walk me through real quick? Like, what do you remember from that night?
I remember when we first walked in, before we were even set up. We were walking in to set up. All the windows were closed in that first little hallway, and then when I went to go back out to the car, the window was open, and I'm like, I ain't even been here 30 seconds. Okay, sure. And then that big room right off of that, the little like cafeteria, like the little eating break area. It was cold. It was I didn't feel anything when we first walked into the building. I felt nothing. I was like, oh, I'm like, we'll see, you know. And then I remember right after I did the crystal grid, I stepped into that room and I felt like I had stepped into like pressure. The whole room was pushing down on me. Like I felt it from the door frame. I stepped back through the door frame and it stopped. And as soon as I stepped back through the door frame, that was that big, like the big, I guess I would assume where they, you know, they had like service or whatever. Very heavy energy. We heard a lot of talking. We did hear screaming. It did when we were sitting in that little break room, we were talking, and then all of a sudden it sounded like someone had ripped the floor open straight to hell, and like it sounded like people were being tortured. People were screaming, and
I don't experience anything.
And that was after I saw the eyes in the basement.
Yeah,
when we were down there, and I saw eyes in that room, and we went down there, and I'm like, nope, I want to be in here. Like, this is not, I don't like this. And then we went outside, and that was when we went to the other. Yeah, we went to the school. We went across to the first building, and that was where that little kid grabbed my hand and made me sit at the table.
Lindsay, you ain't going back there, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not afraid. I already know what's there.
No. The little kid was saying, "Oh man, I saw them eyes too." Like, Lindsay, you got to get out of there.
Okay. No, you were like, "Let's go look," and I'm like, "Fine." No. My God.
That's what the little kid was saying to you. Holding your hand, saying, "Lindsay, you got to get out of there."
Right? Yeah. No. Yeah.
How about the crawling?
Oh, no, the claws up the wall. Yeah, right before we left, I was like
crawling on the. Listen, no one believes me because Bryan, you never experienced anything. I'm like, hey.
No, it sounded like a dragon was running up the wall, crawling, up onto the ceiling.
And then it went on the ceiling and it like circled us.
Because I immediately was like, we need to leave right now. It
came from the basement door, just where where you saw the eyes and you said there's something inhuman or something down there.
Yeah.
And it's like it crawled up on the ceiling or on the walls on the ceiling. No one believed it. I'm like, listen, from the sounds of hell, it's so wild.
Yeah, we experienced some pretty crazy stuff there, and that fountain getting plugged in was intense. I kept hearing the water. I was like, "What is running?" Like,
yeah, I was
it
like,
was not on.
Where's the water coming from? Because like I think it was just windy. I was like, I don't even think it's raining. Was it raining?
Well, I thought it was just water draining off the gutters outside. Like I thought I was hearing water outside, but I was like, that sounds like it's in here. And we went upstairs, and that it was just barely plugged in, like somebody had just tipped it into the hole, and it was going. Like I was like, oh my god, that was the same room that there was a man that he kept telling me to sit down. He kept telling me to sit down, and he was pushing on my shoulders, and I was like, I'm not going to sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was we got quite a bit of activity. I did open a portal. I did open a portal.
Here's the thing. Like, did you open a portal, or did you give whatever was there enough energy?
Oh, I 100% believe that there was something demonic there, but that is common for abandoned religious buildings. Demonic activity is very common in abandoned churches, nunneries, anything religious, any religion, any synagogues, mosques, anything like that, anything that has been abandoned or transferred into something else is very common ground for demonic activity because they can't wait to get their hands on that. Like it's just. Yeah, I was not surprised. I do believe that whatever that was, it was in the basement, and whatever tore up the wall onto the ceiling was 100% demonic. Like, obviously, it didn't want to hurt us or attack us because if it had its opportunity. Instead, it tried to scare us by like running up the wall and whatnot. It did make me feel very ill when we were in the basement. I felt very sick. Like I got very nauseous. But that is also common for demonic entities. They'll make you feel like garbage.
But just to like, I've been there 7 times. One time did I hear these things. Did the fountain be plugged in, hearing the women talking, and it's only when you use that crystal grid, and it's the strangest thing. And so like, of the 54 investigations over the last 9 years, 7 of them are this location. I've had multiple people there, multiple different sensitives, multiple, just different people, regulars that come, and the basic techniques, the only difference is when you gave them enough energy. It's the wildest thing.
Right?
It's the wildest thing.
Very simple. It's a very simple way to. That's how I do it anytime I go anywhere with someone who is not sensitive or someone who is not, a non-believer. I love doing it to non-believers because they get a big old taste of the paranormal. Because I 100% believe in all of that. I've experienced it my whole life. Like, and I love when people finally experience it and they're like, oh my God, like, I can't believe it. I love that feeling. I'm like, I told you I wasn't crazy. Like,
so how, because you're part of YourParanormal, how do you teach one of our members
to use a crystal grid?
Yeah.
Oh, it's super easy. It's super easy.
Yeah, but like, we got to use someone like Seth or Drew. Now,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Or both of them, because like, I've already sacrificed them at this point. Okay. Preferably Drew. Because
I will. Yeah.
Both Drew and Seth are sensitive, but they haven't honed their skills. First off, could you help get the equipment, crystal grid, crystals, etc., and teaching of one or both of those people?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. When I
Absolutely.
think of being extremely respectful to locations, because to me, it's kind of a fact that if you just whip out a Ouija board and you're provoking, something's going to happen.
Absolutely.
That's not what I
Absolutely.
want. That's like
No.
if you're going fishing, bring some TNT, throw it in the pond. You're going to catch fish. That's
You're
not
going to
what
get
we're doing here.
reactions, but the wrong ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, some people are like the ghosts aren't real, and they just want something to prove it. But for me, it's more of what kind of value can we bring to the spirits there? What can we do to help, as
Yeah.
well as just to make sure everyone has a good time.
Yeah.
I like my priority of helping spirits and being respectful always outweighs my members having a good time, just because that's
Absolutely.
not the kind of group that I want to run.
Absolutely.
But I don't think anyone ever has an issue with crystal grids giving them enough, energy
All
to
it
communicate.
does is match their vibration and boost their energy. They love it. I've never had, I always ask first before I use it. I've never had a complaint. And that's a lot of things when you go into locations where there's supernatural activity, there are spirits, that's their home right now. And would you walk into a random person's house and be like, all right, here we go. Like, this is what, you know what I'm saying? The crystal grid is always very welcomed because I tell them what it does. And they're like, oh, yeah, what's up? Let's do this. Like, all it does is give them the energy to interact with you. And spirits are all about energy. They like it. And it actually saves your tools. They don't drain your flashlights. They don't drain your phone. They leave your stuff alone because they have your energy. Your equipment lasts longer because they get a little boost. But yeah.
Perfect. I'm a stickler for time. It's 9 o'clock.
It is 9 o'clock.
So for like the next 5 or 10 minutes, we can start wrapping up. I appreciate your time. Lindsay and I are really great friends. When was the Nunnery 3 or the Nunnery 4? 4/8/21. So, but we knew each other before then.
Yes.
How long have we known each other before the first Nunnery?
I think we're coming up on 3 years we've known each other. Almost.
There's no way.
Almost.
I'd say close to a year.
No, it's been a little over a year. It's probably pushing closer to 2, almost 2 years.
Really?
I don't know. I don't keep track of time.
How long?
It's forever.
Did we first meet at Nunnery 3, or did we meet prior?
I think we met prior.
Okay, I don't know.
One time, I don't remember. Honestly, I feel like I've known you my whole life, so it's fine.
Honestly, Lindsay and I play games with a good group of people every Thursday night. That's one of the best parts of it's really cute if you guys have a paranormal team and you go on investigations. That's great. But if you actually want to grow your paranormal adventure and grow your team, you need to start treating it like a family. Spending time with them outside of investigations, getting to know them. We have an extremely close-knit group at YourParanormal. We're blessed to have you. We need to help you any way you can because you've only done 2 with us.
I know.
I know, and that's that life paranormal balance. Steve's birthday.
I got too many kids.
That's true. Plus all the other ghost kids in your house.
Yeah. Though I have about 12 children. But yeah, no, I do need to do another one. I'd like to do another one. I love it. I love doing it. It's fun.
Yeah. So this is a little lesson for everyone in the paranormal field. Lindsay is part of YourParanormal. We're so lucky and blessed to have her. She has these abilities, and as she came on tonight for the last 2 hours, giving you guys advice on how to hone your skills, but not only learn and hone your skills, but also the defensive side with grounding. It's one of your responsibilities as an owner of a team if you run a team, to make sure if there are people that are sensitive in your group, to maybe um, have the sensitive people spend time with each other. Have them open their third eyes in different ways that they aren't used to. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. This is like a very practical piece of advice here. I'm going to, get with Lindsay after the show, and we're going to go over how to make Seth and Drew masters of the crystal grid. And we're going to get a set or two of the crystal grids, whether we have to make it or whatever. You as a owner of a team or a large part of a team, let's just say, it is your responsibility to help people start and grow their paranormal adventure. The people in your team, you should treat them like family and always try and be expanding your practice. Lindsay's a huge part of that for Your Paranormal. Blessed to have her. And even on the Our Paranormal podcast here, I can't wait until Sean comes back on. We got to have you back on.
Absolutely.
Sean has 500 questions to ask you.
I am ready for them. I like to talk, so
This has been a beautiful, beautiful hour, or 2 hours, I guess. What kind of closing comments do you have before we end the show?
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening to me babble for 2 hours, because I get going, I can't stop. But don't be afraid of any abilities you have. You have them. You were meant to have them. Those of you that are spiritual or religious, those are God-given gifts. If you weren't meant to have them, you wouldn't have them. You have them for a reason. It doesn't mean you have to go out and save the world with them. It doesn't mean you have to run yourself into the ground for other people with them. Don't be me. Take a break. Don't let people run you into the ground. But love them. They are a part of yourself. Don't let anybody make you feel ashamed of them. Don't let anybody make you feel crazy. You're not crazy. Because if you're crazy, I'm crazy. And I might be a little crazy. But, and the supernatural, paranormal, it's just a part of it. You just get an easier ride into that journey. I love the fact that I can interact with spirits and entities. It's eye-opening. It's like being in your own Harry Potter novel. Like, it's your little bit of magic. It feels like magic to me. It's something that's supposed to be unbelievable. It's something that's supposed to be, not real. Like, it's like having a vampire in your closet. It's cool. I like it. Makes me feel unique. And even if you don't have those abilities, like Brian's awesome. I love Bryan. But those of you that do have them, and I believe that honestly that everyone does have an innate ability, a dormant ability. You just got to find it. And you know what? If your ability is just being a fantastic friend, then more power to you. That's a great ability. Absolutely. Yeah. Just embrace it. Enjoy it. It's fun.
Perfect. RU Media is the network here. They're absolutely wonderful to us. Thank you so much, guys. Your Paranormal is Lindsay's team. Good group of people that just want to help people start and grow their paranormal adventure. I don't know how to. There we go. The Hinsdale House. Beautiful place in New York. Lindsay, it's scheduled. Got to get with us. I'll get you more dates. Bravin's just finalizing everything. Bravin's insane. We've got the Hinsdale House, the Monroe House, and that big sanitarium in Indiana.
That one that I found? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's insane. He's already got it booked. Underground Paranormal Network. Beautiful, beautiful people. They're the ones that help set up Oglaze Village, Middle Point School, all that stuff. They're awesome. Austin's awesome. Everyone's awesome. And of course, with the end there, the Our Paranormal podcast. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a wonderful night. Lindsay, we're going to have you back on later this year. Soon, hopefully, in the next quarter or so, 1 to 3 months. When Sean's back, Sean's going to want to pick your brain. You're wonderful.
Absolutely.
Everyone loves you. I just hope everyone has a good night, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
This paranormal adventure that we're all on, it connects us. This is our paranormal community. This is our paranormal podcast with your host, Sean Gilmore.
He's worked in the paranormal field for 10 years.
He was featured on the TV show Paranormal Survivor that airs on Travel Channel.
His passion is creating para-unity.
With your host, Bryan Mursell.
He's worked in the paranormal field for 7 years.
He leads his own paranormal team.
He wants to help people start their paranormal adventure or grow their existing one. This is our paranormal adventure. This is our paranormal community. This is our paranormal podcast.
It's about supporting. It's about making para-unity a real thing, because we all need to support each other within our community, and that's what the show has always been about.